Are you comfortable? Nice and warm by the fire? Okay, good. You can always grab an extra blanket from the car if you'd like. I was gonna suggest that we swap ghost stories, but you're looking pretty sleepy. Maybe I'll just tell a few, and if you doze off, that's okay. The following stories are true. Some of the names have been changed to protect the innocent. So this first one is the boy with no eyes. When Mike was 10, he was woken up by his bedroom door opening, followed by someone sitting on the bed. He felt his leg grazed and the bed sink under a person's weight. He thought it was just his mom, but then he opened his eyes. It wasn't his mom, instead it was an eyeless boy, about the same age as Mike. This boy had black, empty sockets where his eyes should be. The eyeless boy extended his hand, and in it was a little box. Mike was startled but reached out. The boy pulled back. Mike reached again and said, "Give it." But when he blinked and reopened his eyes, the boy was gone. He could still see the imprint where he'd sat on the bed. Fast forward 5 years. Mike's girlfriend came over to do homework. After she finished, she took a nap while she waited for her parents. When they arrived, he tried waking her up. She opened her eyes suddenly, looking up at a corner where the wall met the ceiling. She pointed there and went back to sleep. He shook her again. She came to full consciousness, and he explained what she'd done. She looked haunted. Up on the wall, I saw a little boy with no eyes. He was there in a Spider-Man pose, staring at me. Now, we're gonna fast forward another 5 years. Mike was with the same girlfriend, and they had a 2-year-old daughter. They were living in his parents' house, in his old room. Their daughter started waking up at the same time every night, and she'd talk. After a while, Mike noticed she had almost the same conversation every night. He playfully asked her once who she was talking to. She said, "It's a little boy. He's nice. He's lost and looking for his mom." Their daughter's nightly conversations continued until they finally got their own place later that year. That one kind of spooks me a bit. This next one is the ghost of Frederick Jordan. There was a man named Frederick Jordan who held one of the most lonely and desolate jobs in existence. He was the lighthouse keeper for Penfield Reef Lighthouse off the coast of Fairfield, Connecticut. Built In 1874, the lighthouse was primarily a way of warning ships of a treacherous, hidden reef responsible for more than its fair share of harbor accidents. In 1916, Frederick Jordan was the head lighthouse keeper. Tragically, he drowned in a boating accident just before Christmas 1916, when he was caught in a gale while rowing home to see his family. Ever since then, lighting and equipment malfunctions in the lighthouse have been blamed on Jordan's spiritual presence. But even more chilling is that keepers of the Penfield Reef Lighthouse often find the lighthouse logbook open to the day Jordan died. Locals have recounted witnessing an unidentifiable figure appearing on the water to help stray boats find their way to safety near the reef. This next story happened to a guy called Jerry and a few of his friends. Jerry and 3 of his friends used to go to this place called Profile Rock in Freetown, Massachusetts, late at night. One night during the summer, they went to Profile Rock around 2:30 a.m. to mess around and explore. Now, they didn't know this at the time, but Profile Rock and the area they were in is part of an area called the Bridgewater Triangle, which is a site of alleged paranormal activities and also one of the most haunted areas in the state. So, continuing on, they climbed Profile Rock itself, stayed on top of it for maybe 3 to 4 hours, and finally decided to leave. Now, as you're leaving Profile Rock, you have to go down this long path that's about 2 miles long and get back to where they parked the car. 2 of the friends are walking about 20-30 feet in front of the other 2. Now, Jerry never knew why he turned around. He didn't have a feeling like someone was watching them. He just simply turned around because, besides the moonlight shining through the trees in certain areas, they only had cell phone flashlights to make their way around. After he turned, he saw someone running at them from about 150 feet away at full speed. What was strange wasn't necessarily the running, but how they were running. You know how in zombie movies, the zombie kind of will limp on one of its legs and drag the other behind it? That's what this someone was doing, but it was running at them like this. At first, Jerry didn't say anything, kind of half thinking it was one of his friends, or even maybe somebody that was already in there who got injured and needed assistance. Until this someone made it to an area of the path where the moonlight reached through the trees and gave them some perspective. What he said he saw still scares me to this day. You ever see a child try and draw a person? How they make a stick figure most of the time? That's exactly how this someone looked. He caught maybe a 10-second glance as it was running under the moonlit trees, but there were no distinguishable features. No eyes, no mouth, no ears. Its arms and legs looked extremely malnourished, only completely black, and it didn't look like skin or any type of clothing, just a void running through the dark. Jerry told his friends to run, and one of them turned to look, seeing the stick figure behind them. It was maybe 40 feet away at this point, and just bolting after them. The other two friends were a bit confused, but started running anyway. They all piled into the car. They started to look around and couldn't see it anymore, as if it had vanished into the night. Maybe we'll run into the stick figure man sometime tonight. They never found out what happened to him, or where he came from, only that he wanted to catch them for some reason. Now, this next one is a classic Black-Eyed Kids incident. Sometime in late 1918, early 1919 near Sandoval, Illinois, Henry was sitting on his porch reading a book. Because it had been hot the past summer and it was stuffy inside, he had all the windows open, both of the doors open too. He went in to make a snack and get a drink when he heard a knock. This struck him as odd because most people would just call out that knew him, so he figured it was a vagrant looking for a meal or labor. He lived by the train tracks, so hobos would come from time to time, and that was fairly normal at the time. So he goes to the hall, and two kids are standing in the entranceway, a boy and a girl. The boy didn't speak at all, but the girl called out, "May we come in to rest? It's a long way home." So he says they were welcome to sit on the porch, but it's too hot inside to be comfortable. He asked if they came from the rails, and the girl just said, "We need to come in. May we?" From what he said, the kids made him feel peculiar because 1, they wouldn't look at him directly, and 2, they were too clean. Riding the trains was dirty, so you'd normally get grease on you and coal dust, and sometimes even some cuts on your hands or knees. But these kids were pristine, like they were going to Sunday school. They weren't sweating, and their hair was neat, and it struck him as odd because if they had been walking through open fields in the middle of the heat, they would be unkempt or disheveled. He asks again if they would like to sit on the porch, and the girl just repeated, "May we come in?" And then she just kept asking, "May we, may we, may we?" over and over and over again, until Henry slammed his hand down and said, "Damn you both, no!" The girl stopped speaking, and they both just stood quiet until the girl looked at him, eyes black like coal, and said once more, "Mister, may we please come in?" Henry just walked to the kitchen and sat down, not knowing what to do. He felt like someone punched him in the stomach. He sat there until his dog came rushing in the house, shaking like a leaf. Some people say that once you become aware of the Black-Eyed Kids, you'll receive a visit from them. Whatever you do, don't let them in your house. Well, those were some pretty good stories, but it looks like you're about to pass out. So maybe we should turn in for the night. I hope that these scary stories don't keep you awake. Sweet sweet dreams.